Taurus, welcome to June 2020. Taurus, today we're going to talk about the month that is ahead of ourselves. We have 6 planets retrograde in the month of June. Over and above that, we're going to have 3 eclipses in the coming 2 months, and that is getting kicked off with the first eclipse that is happening on 5th of June. I spoke about that eclipse in detail in the Lunar Eclipse video separately. Today we're going to focus specifically for you what the month holds. Taurus, right now with the season that we have, the focus is very much on your material stability, on your resources, on the money, on the assets that you have. What is the worth of the assets that you hold, and how do you make money out of them? How do you derive value out of them? How do you use your assets, both your physical assets as well as your own talents, to create the resources that you truly desire? This is the time when you might be reviewing your finances, you might be reviewing your spending, you might even be reviewing your diet, because our body is an asset as well, right? So you'll be looking at all the assets that you hold, and you might be in the process to review how to enhance value both of your material resources as well as your talents to some extent. You'll be looking at what you need to buy, what you need to invest in, how do you need to enhance your talents to generate more value out of them, streamlining your finances, possibly a budget in discussion, setting up some goals as well when it comes to your financial goals. This is once in a year reset of your financial resources, but this comes with a specific shift this month, because from now onwards all the way till 2022 you will have North Node or Rahu in your house of material resources. Wherever Rahu or North Node is, we look at creating opportunities. We are given the chance to create new opportunities, new way of doing things in that area of our life. We are given once in 19 years chance to create a completely different way of being in that area of our life, and that for you is material resources. So Taurus, you might be looking to move away from an old way of making money and looking at certain new ways of generating money. And this is not just related to money, this is related to the value that you derive out of the things you do, and that could be also your own value system. How do you value yourself? How do you take care of your body? Do you value your own talents or not? Material resources, tangible resources will come into focus, but so would your own value system as well as your self-sufficiency and confidence. Like the 2 poles, right? We have the North Pole and the South Pole. We have the 2 poles of North Node and South Node as well. North Node normally represents the area of our life where we'll get new opportunities, new experiences. Through fated shifts, we will be presented with opportunities to enhance your material resources. But the other end of it is the South Node. There is something that we need to release or detach from. And for you, that is joint resources. You might be moving away from being taken care of by somebody, or being sponsored by somebody, or being in a karmic relationship or tangle with somebody, and you might be releasing that for you to create value of your own self. This is you becoming independent in the way you create value for yourself. And this is a big step in shifting the way you value yourself. This is where we sort of move away from being dependent or taking help from others, either in material resources or in intimacy and depth with others. This is where the joint partnerships or relationships become more a source of selfless giving versus a source of growth, material growth for us. This is where a chapter possibly will be coming to culmination when it comes to joint resources as well. because we have the first eclipse in a series of eclipses which will happen in your financial houses over the course of next 18 months. The first of those is happening on 5th of June, and that will have an impact on you at the very least for the next 3 months. But the true activation, the true detachment, the true release of an old way of being when it comes to your financial resources will come about, in my view, around March of 2021, because this eclipse will get fully activated only in March of 2021. 2021 is when this activation will happen. So there is a process that is starting for you to move away, to start a transformation, to become more powerful when it comes to your own standing, when it comes to your own identity, when it comes to your own way of being. And this is the time to focus on developing your own confidence in your skills. It's the time to cultivate your own talents. It's the time when intimacy and togetherness is important, but it is not going to be the source of your future growth. Individuality will be more important, and more importantly, the source of growth for you going forward. It is a time when we cannot rely on resources of others. We cannot let other dictate our financial decisions. What assets should we invest in? What should be my source of income? Those decisions have to be independently taken by you. It is a time when we cannot rely on others to define our own worth as well. This is not just material worth, this is our self-confidence, where through trial and error, through various ups and downs, we will be taught how to have more confidence in our own skill set. We will also be given material opportunities to enhance our skill set, enhance the value that we generate from them, and at the same time we will completely revamp how we value ourselves. This is where we are taught to survive on our own, without relying on others, without relying on other parties. This could be a sponsor that you're moving away from. This could be a joint partnership that you're moving away from. There's something that is coming from completion which has a joint element to it. And that will come to a focus and it could come to focus through some amount of conflict even. It could be a joint partnership, it could be inheritance, it could be a loan, it could be a legal dispute, even a separation from somebody that can come to focus. There is a little bit of a crisis which is involved with this eclipse that is coming up. There's something that comes to focus when it comes to your material resources which are joint in nature, and that could come through a little bit of conflict. It could come through focus, through a conflict. It could be an expenditure that comes into focus, and it can suddenly come up. And that brings up the question of who shares it, who sponsors it, where does it come from, why are we spending on it? And there's a transformation in your own power, your own standing that comes through it. There's a healing that comes through releasing an old way of being when it comes to give and take in partnerships and relationships. This could even be a karmic debt or an attachment that you're liberating from. You're releasing something that has been holding your own identity back. There is a change in value. There's a change in your own value which we are initiating, and this is just the start of the process. And this process is starting not just through this eclipse, it is also starting with your ruler Venus going through a retrograde period, a review period in your financial assets, and that has been in making since middle of May itself. Venus went retrograde around 13th of May. We spoke about it in May as well. That's when a shift in income is desired. A shift in how we value ourselves is desired. There's a re-evaluation of our own relationship with money, our assets, the things that we hold dear to ourselves. There's a research that normally goes on because it's happening in the zodiac sign of Gemini. Venus is in Gemini right now. When Venus is in Gemini in your house of resources, we research, we discuss, we connect with people. We try to find out how do we buy, sell, spend, improve our budget, improve the value of our resources. How do we go for opportunities that are more profitable, more sustainable for us in terms of our material abundance? This is also the time when we look at our expenditure. We try to live simply to some extent. We try to look at some complicated investments, or even certain things we have invested in, or the expenditure sources that we hold that we need to release. And we also look at this psychologically. Venus retrograde takes us inward into our heart. What thoughts are keeping you apart from creating value? When you ask somebody, are you truly voicing what you want out of them? Are you able to, through your words, demand or request what you need out of your give and take in your relationships, from your surrounding, from the people in your immediate surroundings, from the people who live with you, from the people who work on a day-to-day basis with you? This is the time when certain limiting beliefs about money are also reviewed. Are there any beliefs that are blocking you? Are there any beliefs that are blocking the abundance that is due to come to you? We look at sustainability of ideas as well. Are they financial ideas that you have, because you are a zodiac sign who generates multiple financial sources. You have inherent ability to create ideas on how to create value. So there might be multiple sources of income, multiple your hands might be in multiple pots, and you're sort of looking at which one is truly worth your time. You will be thinking, writing, reading, researching on money at this time. There is an impetus to enhance what we earn, enhance the value of what we create, and enhance the value of who we are becoming. And at this junction, when you might be in a process of conflict to some extent, and it could be a source of conflict which you might experience in the early part of June itself, especially around 2nd or 3rd of June, when Venus, your ruler, is meeting Mars, the planet that rules conflicts, the planet of war. These two are at clash with each other. Mars is in your house of vision. What you are creating, maybe that's not what your vision for your life is. Maybe the way you're being valued by your network is not how you want to be valued. Maybe the way your social standing is not up to your desire. The way you're looked at by people at large in your business network. It could be a friend that might bring this conflict. It could be through a group conflict that is happening. There could be a fight with a friend to some extent. Mars is in your house of networks, friends, social standing. Mars is where we put our efforts. So till 27th of June, you have all the energy available to you, all the courage available to you to break through into a social network, and you'll be very amped up to make your presence known in a business network to some extent, by being socially active, by standing on social issues, even taking some amount of leadership in a group. But with that courage, with that strength comes some amount of conflict, because you're reviewing how you are valued. So there could be ego conflict that can happen with somebody in your business network or with a friend around 2nd or 3rd of June. And this is something that can carry on for a while, because out of this conflict in the first 10 days of June will come a new idea on what you truly want to do and what kind of value you want to create. We are learning that in order to attract what we truly want, we possibly need to create a new way of getting it. And that realization will come through some amount of turbulence in the early part of June. There could be a conversation that can go a little bit wrong, and it can rub you in a wrong fashion when it comes to your ego, when it comes to your confidence. You might feel not valued by somebody. Maybe you find that the talents that you have, they are not going to get you where you want to go. There is a gap between what talents you hold and what kind of presence you want to create in your social network, and that comes to focus. And maybe the answer is for us to work on our talents to some extent. But there's a T square that is forming on the day of the eclipse on 5th or 6th of June, there's a T square that is forming. T square is a mental conflict and a verbal conflict, and it normally indicates an issue that we have been avoiding for some time, but we are put in a place, in a position where we cannot avoid it anymore. This is something that we need to decide on to some extent by looking at both sides of things. It could be a joint financial issue. It could be a person, your partner or a business partner or your spouse with whom you share your resources. Maybe you invest together. There's a gap that comes to focus between a difference between your evaluation of the situation, of an investment, of an asset, of a money situation between you and your spouse or your better half or your business partner or a friend that you're in business with, and that comes to focus, and that shows you that there is something that needs to be done differently. And with that will come a release of an old way of being. Taurus is a sign you grow from crisis. You, through crisis, find a new meaning in life. And this could be something from which you recreate the way you stand on your 2 feet. You're finding new meaning of life to some extent, a new definition of abundance to some extent. And it will come to surface in some ways that maybe you need to value yourself more to connect with the right kind of people, especially the right kind of business partners and the right kind of friends to some extent. You might also realize that in order for you to grow in the way you want to grow financially, maybe you need right kind of connections. And this eclipse will give you the push to some extent. It will give you that sometimes we need to be hurt on the ego, right, to realize our own worth. So through some amount of conflict or a ego hurt to some extent, through a bruise, you might get the impetus to break through in a business network where you earlier were not going in because you were not feeling sure enough of yourself. There's a gap in social evaluation of your assets or talents that will come to focus as well. Possibly it's you yourself who is not valuing what you're creating or what you're worth. And you don't think that the source of income would get you where you need to go. There's a gap between how personally you think you should be and where you think your bosses or somebody influential in your network thinks how far can you go. There needs to be clear boundaries and self-respect that needs to be created here. And through some conflict, you will rise up to that occasion and create clear boundaries there. There will be a conflict which will urge you possibly to connect with a different set of people altogether, the people who are truly your tribe. This is a little bit idealistic. You have to realize that Sagittarius full moon or lunar eclipse in this case comes with a little bit of idealistic cause. It comes with a mission, which is great because it lets you see from 30,000 feet what needs to be done. But we have to realize that that mission is from 30,000 feet. There's a lot of hyperbole that will come with this eclipse, and the information is not going to be very, very clear over here. You have to be careful that you are not going for an impossible dream to some extent is what I'm trying to do. So you'll have to sort of break this down into bite size as well. There could be a possibility that what you're aiming from is a dream. It's a vision, it's a dream, but it is not based in real expectations of life. We are now moving into North Node in Gemini. Gemini is a realistic sign. The road to success is to create a now plan, not a 2030 plan. So look at, my guidance would be to sort of look at what you can do in your current situation, in the now situation, to enhance what you need to do. But at the same time, try to keep the ego fights on ideas on the side at this time, because the conflict which is rooted in ego will not help you leverage the right connections. It will not let you be shown in the right way when it comes to your social network as well. There could be uh, there could be us leveraging our practical side as well. This could just be a source of confidence, new value found in ourselves, ability to create wealth to get the social goals that we're aiming for. So try to tap into your regular practical side, because you as a sign is a practical sign. You're very objective, very you're a earth sign. You know how to deal with earthly matters. You're not up in the air normally. But what's happening is that this eclipse will shake some part of you, a part of you which is linked to your sensitive side, which is the ego. So eliminate certain negative habits or emotional patterns that might be coming to surface with this eclipse as well, and we have to find ways to remove them for us to relate to others in a more positive fashion. The house that this eclipse is activating is a house which is hidden from us. These are emotional patterns as well as emotional way of being that is not inherent to us. We don't normally see that on a day to day basis. Like we don't see Taurus losing their cool on a day to day basis. So this will bring about an emotional pattern that we normally don't see, and there could be an actual thing that is holding you back. It could be a health habit, it could be a thing that you're eating, it could be anger, it could be ego that is hidden below the surface, that is not out in the open, but it is dominating the way you act in the outer world, which maybe blocks you from being open to the people who are part of your network, who can help you get somewhere, who can build you up, who can give you the right tools that you need to create the kind of financial wealth or the kind of material resources or the kind of value you want to derive out of your work. So those patterns, if we look closely and objectively, they will come out for us to be handled as well. It's like this is the house of junk sometimes that needs to be released out of our life so you can be freer to interact with others in a lighter fashion. And this highly charged and emotional full moon that is ahead of ourselves in the next couple of weeks will highlight and bring that out to you, because there will be a conflict between your idealistic vision and what is being created right now that will show up to some extent. There could be a physical action that is involved as well over here, because Mars is the apex of the T square that is forming as a part of this eclipse. So there could be actual physical, there's a possibility of a physical fight even that I'll like you to be careful about, because the anger which is psychological, which is hidden below the surface, can very easily during this eclipse become physical in nature, and we'll see that in action in the outer world. We'll see, and people will be very, very regretful of their actions during this eclipse in general, because Mercury is in shadow period right now. Our mind is walking the degrees right now from now till 18th of June, which it will walk back on from 18th of June to 12th of July, because Mercury, our mind, will go through a retrograde, a retrospective state in the month of June, starting from 18th of June to 12th of July. So the actions that we're taking, the words that we're speaking, the confrontations that might be happening, the direct actions that might be happening, some of them will go through a review period because of that retrograde that will happen from 18th of June to 12th of July. And for you, the Mercury retrograde is going to happen in your house of words, in your house of contracts, in your house of discussions. So be a little bit cautious of the things that we are seeing and the things that we are committing to some extent right now, because we might be walking back on them to review them, and the Mercury retrograde is happening in a water sign in Cancer. So what we'll be reviewing is, did we impulsively out of emotions say yes to something or no to something, or did we overreact to a situation, especially in a business scenario that you want to be careful of. And 11th of June and 13th of June will be the time when something like that can happen very, very clearly. We can be, even through a sweet talker, be mizzled into a financial contract during this time. This cannot just be through conflict. This 5th of June eclipse is coming with Mars, but on 11th of June, Neptune is taking the space of Mars. Neptune is nebulous, Neptune is fog, Neptune is charm, Neptune is everything which looks very, very rosy and good on the surface, but we don't know what's happening below the surface. So there can be a better than too good to be true kind of a financial prospect that can come to you between 11th of June, couple of days before, couple of days after, 2 days maybe before and after, which can happen around 11th of June. And you want to be very, very careful of what's being presented in June as a new proposition to you, especially by a friend or by a business network or by even your elder sibling. You want to be a little bit careful of Ponzi schemes. This is the month when things will not be clear. Neptune, the planet that rules fog, that rules idealism, that is higher octave of love, which removes our boundaries from other people and lets us do the things that we would normally not do. That is standing still and hence is very, very strong in the month of June. We'll see that in the political events. We'll see that in the diplomatic events. Things are not going to be clear what is true, what is fake. So around 11th of June, you want to be a little bit careful of that. On the other hand, if the idea is yours, there's an idealistic dream that you've been wanting to work on, you've been looking to create a network, you've been looking to break through in a network, you want to convince a business partner on something, you want to convince somebody in your network about something, you want to launch something by mesmerizing other people, by being on television, by being on media, by being on YouTube, by being on a platform where you're seen by other people. You can use this aspect between 11th of June to 13th of June to work on your idealistic dream and mesmerize other people, captivate other people through your passion, through your persona, through your charm to some extent, and you'll do that in a very, very impactful fashion. This is especially true if you have planets around 21 degree of Taurus. That's around 11th of May born. If you're born around 11th of May, if you're a Taurus sun or if you're a Taurus rising or moon with planets around 21 degree of Taurus, I would use this time to convince somebody but using the softer element. This is the psychological convincing versus this statistical convincing that is done. And I'll use this time to connect with people who I normally do not, I fear to connect with, or I would look to expand my social network at this time by putting effort into it. But you want to be careful on the reverse side of being sort of taken for a ride by somebody else when it comes to financial propositions, especially at this time. And 6 planets are retrograde. We will have to review our actions this month again when planets go direct. So don't put anything in stone, as I mentioned in the eclipse video as well. This is a mutable season. In mutable season, we shift direction, we make choices. We don't take a cardinal step. We don't take a definitive step. We'll have to wait till the dust settles down in July for us to take a cardinal step. But what will happen? These eclipses will tempt us. These things will tempt us to take a cardinal, directional step to some extent. But this is not the time. Pluto and Jupiter are together in your house of belief. You will have very, very strong opinions about things and you will think that you know everything. But once Neptune goes retrograde after 24th, 25th of June, you'll realize that what you were seeing was fog and it was not real to some extent. Some amount of reality and information will come to surface in the month of July. So be on lookout for that. And that's what I have for you in terms of exact degrees. The eclipse that's happening, it's happening at 15 degree of Sagittarius. It will affect most of you, but if you especially have planets around 15 or 16 degree of Taurus, which if you're a Taurus sun is around 5th of May born, then you'll feel this very strongly. I would use this eclipse to release something, to transform out of a situation that is stagnant in nature. Liberate yourself psychologically, physically, in your diet, heal out of something, subconsciously release something. Use that eclipse to cut ties with something. There could be a medical thing that can come to light, which you need to, because of which you might need to release something when it comes to your diet. It could be a nerve inflammation that can happen. As I mentioned in the eclipse video, the nerves get very stimulated during the Sagittarius eclipse. So you want to be careful of that, especially if you have thyroid, for example. You want to be a little bit careful, or if you're a restless person in general, like restless leg syndrome or something, you might need to leave something. It could be caffeine, it could be something that is sort of getting on your nerves to some extent. You might need to release. It could be a person who's getting on your nerves. It could be a pattern that is getting on your nerves that you need to release. But a crisis reveals an opportunity here. There's a clear silver lining that comes out of this, and we find meaning here. We find a new purpose here by releasing an old one. So good luck for that, Taurus, and I'll see you in the next video. I'll do another video which I'm doing for each sign, which is to talk more in detail about how do we handle the North Node in Gemini and South Node in Sagittarius better over the course of next 18 months, because it will help you handle your work better, your life better. It sort of is I look at it as the adjectives that I should be using when I do my work or when I handle my personal life. North Node and South Node, they help me define the right adjectives to put to my work, and it sort of is the way to be more fruitful to some extent over the course of next 18 months. So look out for that video. I'll publish that pretty soon for your sign, and I'll see you in the next video now. Thank you.